I've been thinking a lot recently. What is psychoanalysis? No, it seems a very easy question, but actually it's very difficult to say what is psychoanalysis, and especially when you want to say what is psychoanalysis to someone who has no experience of it, who has never heard of it. So when this name makes no sense, no? So how you can explain what is it? So at least for me. Okay. Yeah. So for me, psychoanalysis is not just a sum of concepts or theories, no? But for me, psychoanalysis has some peculiarity which make it different from all other approaches. So it's not just a matter of concepts. We know there are many concepts: unconscious, dreams, sexuality, transference, many. We can identify many concepts. But my challenge was how can I express what is the peculiarity of psychoanalysis, no? And I found it that listening was the best way to capture the essence of psychoanalysis, and to give a definition which was an operative definition. I really want to stress out the fact that psychoanalysis is probably the only discipline that focuses on listening. No, I was thinking that psychiatry, psychotherapy, psychology, all the social sciences, sociology, anthropology, they all rely on vision rather than listening. They all have a vision of the world, no? A system of thought. The listening is, and this also referring on what we were saying before, the listening is instead a totally different approach. If you simply think about the analytical situation when the patient lay on the couch and the analyst and the patient, they don't have they don't watch each other, no? So the level of the vision is totally out. It's another kind of approach. So I just want to retrace very shortly how psychoanalysis was born and how was born as a listening cure, even though it was called a talking cure. So you know Freud when he was very young, he was maybe 26, something like this. He met this famous Joseph Breuer. Breuer was an Austrian physician. He was very famous, and despite he was a medical doctor, he was applying. He found out maybe for the first, as first the power of the speech. No, usually medical doctors rely on observation. No, the clinic also refer to the patient that lay down on the bed. No, the etymology of the word, and medical doctors usually rely on focus on the body, so observe, and not maybe in some traditional medicine the talking is something important, but medicine usually consider just observation of the body. So despite he was a doctor with such background, he adopted a cathartic method to cure this hysteric patient who was Berta Pappenheim, called Anna O. And this cathartic method, no, catharsis is releasing some energy which is condensing the symptoms. So he adopted hypnosis, and he was hypnotizing this patient and removing. He found that he could remove all these symptoms, all these manifestations from the symptom. No? So they first began this kind of very strange and funny method, very atypical. Consider that this physician was one of the top academicians, so he was also quite new from this doctor. And Berta Pappenheim called this method the talking cure or the chimney sweeping. So there is already the idea, no? The cathartic method was the name given by Breuer, and the chimney sweeping from the patient. So something like we have to go there, clean, remove, and then this relief is the solution, no? And there was an emphasis on the talking. And I think this emphasis was that nowadays maybe it's very common that oh, if you have something you should talk about it and you will feel relief, but probably it was not so common at the time, so it was more groundbreaking as idea, no? So Freud started from here. Freud he was very impressed by this method, by these results, and he at first, you know, he was adopting hypnosis, and Freud called this method abreaction. No, abreaction is similar to catharsis, the idea that there is something that has to come out, no, making conscious the unconscious, and then the problem is solved. So the idea, when we found the problem, there is a problem behind the symptom. When we identify the problem, when we find it, then the problem is solved, no? And this is also the theory of the trauma. At the beginning, Freud totally agree about this idea. There is a trauma behind. There must be a trauma. A trauma intended like a concrete problem. Then he realized that, oh, maybe there is no trauma. Maybe the trauma has been imagined. Maybe this problem is more like a fantasy. It doesn't exist in reality. But still, it affects the patient's life, no? So I think that modern counseling theories still are very much stuck on this point, no? The problem is let the patient talk and relieve, for example, even the very idea of stress that we have. Oh, I'm stressed. I have to talk something and talk out, put it out. I have to relieve. And I think this is a pre-analytical in a way. This is something that psychoanalysis overcame. I think psychoanalysis started from here, started from just talking, just this cathartic effect. Also Freud found that this cathartic effect, after all, it didn't last for long. Huh? How to go next?
Just press.
So I think when I say that the peculiarity of psychoanalysis is listening, of course I don't refer to hearing. I don't refer to just giving the ear, lending the ear to somebody, no? Or trying to capture the message, or trying to understand everything is being said. On the contrary, I think listening is what we cannot hear. Listening is listening of the unsaid. So there is an ambiguity when we talk, no? And this is what Freud did from the very beginning, from the dream analysis. What he did, he said, okay, you are saying some statements, but these statements, you know, we can interpret in different ways. They can give, they can go in different directions. somebody was mentioning the jokes before. The jokes are expression of the unconscious because they play with this double meaning, no? So this is the work of analysis. This is the listening of analysis. Listening that other scene that is opening behind what is being said, between the lines, we will say, no? And this is something that for us may be quite common, quite basic, but I believe that in most psychotherapeutic approaches, most counseling approaches, also hypnosis, all still rely on the other system, no? The communication from one to another one, the instructions, no? The basic model of hypnosis. It was the patient goes in hypnotic state. It means that he can be more receptive of the instruction of the therapist, and the therapist give instruction that he wants the client to do, no? So this is the basic model also of communication as we normally intend communication, no? Just transmit a message to the other. And this is at the very base of counseling and therapeutic approaches. But in psychoanalysis, we see that this system is completely reversed. When somebody is talking, already we don't know, we no longer knows who is talking. When the patient is talking, somebody else is talking, because we start talking and we make lapse, forgetfulness, we don't know what we want to say, or then we realize that suddenly what we say can be misunderstood, no? This happens every day. I mean, it happens in every situation. It doesn't just happen in the analysis, no? But in analysis, probably what the analyst should do is stay in that position where he doesn't want to comprehend, no? He doesn't want to understand. He wants to misunderstand. He wants to create some unclarity, no? The message is not clear. This is the resource, no? When communication fails, this is the resource. Yeah. So usually in the communication system we have two subjects, two people talking to each other, and aims of communication is clarity, no? But when we listen in analysis, we listen to the unconscious, we can say. We don't just listen to the intended meaning, no? Totally reversed. We listen to the other meaning that is possibly behind what is being said, no? So it is already a paradox saying, I am listening, or hey, listen to me, because the listening has nothing to do with an intentional process. No, we listen and we understand or we misunderstand not just because we want to. Interpretation can be already, interpretation actually is always a misinterpretation, no? So there is always something in between. The communication is never so transparent, no, from A to B. So what I claim here is that what my experience in analysis showed me is that it is not just a matter of having some message to convey from A to B, from me to you, but more likely there is some listening that is necessary. Listening means openness, means that we are open to another meaning. It means that when we listen, we don't just want to comprehend, we want to question. Listening is strictly connected with questioning, with making more questions. paradoxically, the more you question, the more you listen, no? So there is not already something to say and to convey. Instead, this listening disposition is what allows some message to come. Am I almost at the end?
Yes.
Yes, 2
15
minutes more.
minutes.
Yeah.
Shall we give you
short.
3 more minutes to conclude?
Yeah. Okay, I will not go through all these slides, but I just tried to sum. Oh, only two slides. I just tried to sum some differences in what I call the listening in psychoanalysis and in counseling. No, so for example, as I said, listening is not intentional. What we say in psychoanalysis is say what comes to your mind, free association. So also Freud, he left the cathartic method. He said, follow the signifier, follow the speech. Let's see where we are going to. No? Free association. So listening is more. It seems that we start from nowhere and we go nowhere, but actually, this is the no. We know that following the signifier, we go straight to the point, even if we both don't know where we are going. No, so there is not someone like a therapist who gives the direction to the cure. The direction is given by the process, by following the free association. It's so simple, no? Again. I would say a lot more, but maybe it's time for some discussion. So,
do you think that, well, your presentation is very informative and very ambitious? I can't grasp so much. Can I, what I heard is it, you mean when we talk, there is no subject who is talking. But is it the same when we listen? There is also no subject when we listen.
The point is like this, like we are talking now, no? But we don't just think something and then repeat or verbalize, no? The paradox is this: we are talking, and at the same time we are talking, we are also listening, because we don't know what we are saying until we say, no? This is so simple, but so, in a way, interesting, no? So this is what happened in analysis. Somebody is talking, and somebody is listening too. The problem is that there are many talking cures, and actually we talk a lot. The problem, okay, we can say, in Italy I feel that people talk more. When I came here, I see that probably people tend to talk less. But this is not the radical differences, no, between who talks more, who talks less. The point, the crucial point is that after talking, we should be listening to what we say. We always give for granted that we know what we are talking about. The experience of analysis shows that we never know what we are talking about, even we claim we know. So there is always some other meaning. We are always saying something else more than what we just verbalize. And the problem is that we don't pay attention. So it's not just a matter of talking, sharing, relieving. It's a matter of, okay, what am I saying? What am I talking about? Am I so sure what I'm talking about? Maybe it goes in some other direction I didn't consider, no? So this is breaking the scheme of communication, no? When a sender, A there is not a master who just capture the message and give a message back, no? If you consider the analytical situation, it's very difficult to say, oh, what are we talking about in analysis? No, sometimes it makes no sense. Or sometimes maybe the patient can talk for a long time and the analyst just make a few interventions. So it's not in this typical way, no, question and answer. No, it's not. I would say the problem is really listening, because this makes the difference between a chit chat or analytical conversation. No, it's not just a matter of verbalizing, of talking. It is important that there is a listening. Okay, I should be responsible of what I'm saying, no? What am I saying? Where does it lead to? What does it imply?
So I think your listening is actually a kind of talking.
Yeah, at some point it's very different. It's very difficult to make a distinction, no? It's not just verbalizing or hearing. When I say listening, is listening the unsaid. It seems a paradox, no? It's the speech is not just what is being verbalized.
What can you then? How can you distinguish this kind of listening to a patient from listening to the stars?
You know, it's very complex, because when you listen, it's very difficult to say who is talking and who is where is the addressee, no? Because it seems that an addressee is necessary in some ways, but also the analyst. The analyst is the addressee, but it's a fiction, you know, because it is needed that the patient talk and refer to the analyst. But then a listening is possible only if the analyst doesn't reply as an analyst, only if he is staying in the position of the other. Lacan would say like this, no? So the analyst should not answer as a person, should not reply. The listening in analysis is never a reply or an answer, no? It's always something that helps, that support to go further, to go more, no?
Diego, you mentioned that Freud later on he preferred transference and free association to catharsis. Can you say some more about this change, that why transference and free association is much better?
But I think nobody can deny the cathartic effect of talking, and this is probably common in many relations, not only in the consultation room, no? I think that maybe Freud realized when he abandoned the theory of the trauma, when he realized that maybe it's not so important if the trauma really happened or not, no? He said that it doesn't matter if what the patient say is true or not. You can come to a session and you can you can make a dream out of nothing. You can invent a story completely, no? You can say something that never happened. But actually, what we can find is that every fantasy, every fantastic, every fairy tale, no, always refer to the person who is speaking, no? So even a story that seems to come out of nowhere actually comes from somewhere. So the problem is not the external truth, the internal truth. Is it a real story, not real? We can take every statement like a fantasy. Every statement like a lie. Eh, this is the experience in analysis. The patient comes and is very convinced about what he's saying. No, this is really happened. This is happen all the time. So Freud, maybe he said, okay, it doesn't matter really happen or not. Let's go further. Where does this fantasy go? What does it associate to this? No, what support this fantasy? What support this interpretation? Let's associate. So I think he moved one step forward. He said, okay, go further. Important is more the fact of the tale more than the content. So I think it's something in this direction that probably he wanted to see what's going on, what's further. Actually, also when he was doing hypnosis, for example, he saw that many patients, okay, they remove the symptom, and then suddenly the symptom comes somewhere else, no? So there is not just an unconscious to drain, something that we have to drain and to dry out. Actually, the more he was asking, the more the patients were producing. So
I really hate to do this work and to cut it short, but I don't want to miss any presentation from my colleagues, and even
one question.
Yeah. What's one question?
Yes.
Okay, say it.
Yeah,
First,
I
fast.
tried to pose a question, but if you don't have time to answer, just we can leave it later. Well, when you are speaking about listening, let's say when we are in a clinical section, when our client is speaking, I think they always assume someone is listening. Assume someone is listening. Let's think about, for example, when our client is sitting on the couch, sometimes the analyst will be sitting at her back, okay? And our patient sometimes think, okay, my analyst is at the back. There seems to be someone doesn't exist, okay? And you know, when the analyst doesn't exist, it always creates some kind of imaginary space for the patient to think more about, not to fix on particular person of the analyst. But how about when someone, let's say the analyst, not really listening to what is being spoken? So can you say something about the expectation of being listened from the client side, and how is it different from when the analyst is not being there?
But I think this is one very interesting point, because when we talk normally, why we talk face to face, no? We usually talk face to face, or when we talk on the phone, we always have to say, oh yeah. You know, because when we talk, usually we always look for, okay, did you understand what I mean, no? Did you comprehend? Is it fine? You know, can I go further? So, in analysis, and this is a kind of defense from listening. Hearing in this way is a kind of defense. No? In analysis, we try, not from the beginning, but we try when there are the conditions to avoid this always watching and nodding, yeah, no, because when we are talking and we perceive that the addressee is listening, is not listening, what am I saying? No, something can start. So in analysis, it's not just that the analyst has to comprehend and say, oh yeah, sure, I understand. There is some analytical work when the analyst say, what are you saying? What? No, so when he can underline something paradoxically, something strange, and when the speaker is in some ways forced to consider what he's saying, no? And you know, Freud, he didn't give many advices to analysts. He wrote very few advices, and psychoanalytic listening was initially described by Freud by floating attention, no? He said the analyst should have a distract listening, so distract from the main
I'm
content.
distracting you, yes.
But just to conclude, I will be very short. Freud, he was saying, you know, how can the analyst remember everything of everyone? Like he said, this is not important. And it's not important that the analyst is listening to everything. Sometimes he can be a little bit distracted. The unconscious will guide this listening, no? It happens, I think, to all of us. Maybe we daydream, we don't think about anything specific, and suddenly some words come to our mind, and it's the relevant word in that moment, or some song comes to our mind, and that words that signify make sense to what we were thinking or in these days. So really, the floating attention, I think we should talk more about this. This is really the way for listening effectively.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Diego. I think he has given us the main gist of his doctoral dissertation. I really want all our presenters today to send your email your file of your presentation to our society email address, so that we can all share and continue to digest the contents. It's too rich for us to comprehend in such a short time. Shall we move on to the next presentation? I don't want to disadvantage